The Taliban regime was particularly tough on the women of Afghanistan, and soon after their ouster in 2001, women across the country embraced their freedom. 18 years later, in 2019, Afghanistan is still fighting an ongoing war with the Taliban, and peace talks between the U.S. and Taliban began earlier this year. U.S. Representative Chrissy Houlahan and Adam Schiff believe it is important for Afghan women's concerns to be heard during any kind of peace negotiation.
One of the reasons why I've been an advocate for Afghan women and their health, Afghan women and their education, also making sure that we think about the role of women in conflict, is because there needs to be more of an opportunity for women to participate in all parts of society, certainly, but also in discourse on this kind of peace process.
Afghan women need to be at the table as part of the Afghan government delegation in making these decisions, and then I'll have confidence that women and girls' rights are being respected.
In Kabul, Afghan politician Fawzia Kufi says it is important to remember who the Taliban are before negotiating.
I believe it will be premature to judge that the Taliban have completely changed. We still see the Taliban fighting inside Afghanistan. We have witnessed that they have challenged women's education and rights.
In 2019, Afghan President Ashraf Ghani initiated a consultative Grand Assembly of some 3,000 members with the goal of setting limits on negotiations with the Taliban during peace talks. 30% of this assembly were women.
If women do not raise their voice and raise their policy and suggestions for peace, no one can represent women.
Dialogue with the Taliban also raised concerns among women's rights activists like Farahnaz Forotan, prompting her to initiate a social media movement called My Red Line.
My Red Line is the voice of Afghanistan for sustainable peace, which started in 2019 during the height of peace talks between U.S. and Taliban. So we can raise the people's voice, which is peace should be for all the people of Afghanistan and not limited to some. And the peace that comes to Afghanistan must be a sustainable peace.
While 2019 will be primarily remembered for the beginning of peace talks with the Taliban, it may also be remembered as the year women spoke up. Some 31% of the 2 million voters who cast their ballots in Afghan presidential elections were women.
Young women need to participate in election because we should work hard for our future.
According to a survey done by the Asia Foundation, 86.6% of Afghans support women's education, which has increased since 2018. And according to the same survey, for the first time in Afghanistan, 76% of Afghans support women working outside their homes. However, according to the Afghan Ministry of Women's Affairs, there has been a 1% increase in domestic violence cases against women. Deputy Minister Spozhmai Wardak says one reason for the increase in domestic violence may be that the ministry is focusing more on educating women across the country about their rights. Simply put, women are no longer silent in their homes and are actively seeking legal assistance.
In the year 2019, officials of this ministry have traveled to 224 districts. We tried to focus more on districts than major cities, and one of our main programs was to educate women about their rights.
On the other hand, 28% of high positions in government are now made up of women.
The contribution of women to civil service has maximized. We are confident that their contribution exceeds 28% during the current year. It was 27% last year.
While the fear of the Taliban returning is very much alive in the hearts of millions of Afghan women, it seems more Afghans than ever before support Afghan women taking part in society. For Najiba Khalil in Washington and Lima Niazi in Kabul, Bejan Hamdard, VOA News.